In this video, we're going to talk about a powerful and emotional story. The story of a poor man and a Jinn girl. It's a tale that reminds us how faith and sincerity can change a person's life in ways they never expect. The story begins in a small, quiet village. A poor man lives there, struggling every day just to survive. He has no family, no wealth, and barely enough to eat. But despite his hardships, he never complains. His heart is full of patience, and his faith in Allah remains strong. One evening, after a long day of work, he rests under a tree. The night is silent, but suddenly he notices a mysterious light shining far away. It flickers like a lantern in the dark. Curious, he decides to follow it, unaware that this moment will change his life forever. As he walks closer, he finds a young woman sitting near a well, crying softly. Her clothes shimmer strangely in the moonlight. The poor man asks kindly, "Sister, why are you crying?" She lifts her head and replies, "I am not a human. I am a Jinn, trapped here because of my own mistake. I need someone pure-hearted to help me." The man is startled, but his fear is soon replaced by faith. He says, "If Allah allows, I will help you." The Jinn girl explains, "Take this stone and say Bismillahir-Rahman-Ir-Rahim 3 times. Then throw it into the well." With trust in Allah, the man does exactly as she says. The moment the stone hits the water, a brilliant light fills the place. The air trembles, and suddenly the chains that bound the Jinn girl vanish. She smiles through tears and says, "You have freed me. I was cursed for disobeying my parents, and I could only be freed by someone sincere and faithful like you. Because of your kindness, Allah has forgiven me." Before she disappears, she hands him a small pouch of gold coins and says, "Use this with wisdom, and never forget that Allah helps those who help others from the heart." From that night onward, the poor man's life transforms. He builds a small home, helps those in need, and shares his blessings with others. He never lets greed or pride enter his heart. He always remembers that what he has is not because of luck, but because of faith and compassion. This story isn't just about miracles. It's about how faith in Allah and good intentions can open doors no one expects. The poor man didn't help for reward. He helped because it was right, and that sincerity became the reason for his success. The message is simple. When you do good for others, even when no one is watching, Allah sees it, and He rewards you in ways you could never imagine. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to Story Vision for more inspiring Islamic stories that remind us of the power of faith, kindness, and gratitude. As the days passed, the poor man continued to live a humble and peaceful life. He used his gold wisely, not to show off, but to serve. He helped widows, orphans, and travelers passing through his village. People began to notice how his face always shone with calm and peace. They asked him what his secret was, but he simply said, "When you trust Allah fully, He never lets you down." One night, while he was praying, he heard a familiar voice, soft and gentle, like the wind. It was the Jinn girl. She said, "I came to thank you once again. Because of your good heart, my soul found peace. But remember, this world is a test. Use your blessings only for good, and never forget those who are suffering." The man smiled and replied, "I have nothing to fear, for I live only to please Allah." The Jinn girl's voice faded, leaving behind a sweet fragrance that filled his home. From that moment, he knew she had truly been forgiven and returned to the world of the unseen. As years went by, the man became old. He had no family, but the entire village treated him like their own father. Children would come to hear his stories, and he always ended with one lesson: The heart that helps others for the sake of Allah will never be poor. One day, when the villagers came to visit him, they found him in his small house, resting peacefully. His face carried a gentle smile, and beside him was an old pouch, the same one the Jinn girl had given him years ago. Inside, it was a note written in glowing letters. The one who gives for Allah never loses. The villagers buried him with great respect. That night, they saw a light shining from his grave, not of fire, but of peace. It was a sign that Allah had accepted his deeds. From then on, people in the village often shared his story. They taught their children about faith, patience, and sincerity, about how a poor man once helped a Jinn girl, and how that single act of kindness brought blessings for generations. And so, the story of the poor man and the Jinn girl became a reminder for everyone. No act of goodness goes unseen. When you help with a pure heart, Allah watches, rewards, and protects you in ways beyond your imagination. The voice of the narrator fades with these final words. True wealth is not in gold or silver, but in the heart that trusts Allah completely. Years passed, and the village where the poor man once lived began to change. New families arrived, houses were built, and trade flourished. But among the villagers, his story never faded. They still remembered the man who had nothing, yet gave everything from the goodness of his heart. One evening, a traveler came to the village. He was tired and hungry, and no one recognized him. A kind old woman offered him food and a place to rest. As they spoke, she shared the story of the poor man and the Jinn girl. The traveler listened carefully, his eyes full of emotion. When she finished, he said softly, "I've been searching for this village for years. That poor man once helped my father long ago." He opened his bag and pulled out a small book, worn and faded. Inside were the man's teachings and prayers, words about faith, honesty, and helping others. The traveler explained, "Before my father died, he told me to find the place where goodness lives. I think I've found it here." The villagers were moved to tears. They decided to build a small mosque in memory of the poor man, using their own hands and resources. Above its entrance, they engraved his most famous words, "Faith is the key to every locked door." That night, after the mosque was completed, something extraordinary happened. A soft breeze swept through the village, carrying the same gentle fragrance that once filled the poor man's home. The villagers felt a deep calm settle in their hearts. Some said they heard a distant voice whispering prayers of peace. The traveler stayed in the village and became a teacher. He taught children about the power of sincerity and faith, just as the poor man once had. The story continued to spread beyond the village, to towns, cities, and faraway lands. It inspired people to believe that no act of kindness is ever wasted, and no faith goes unrewarded. Years later, when the traveler grew old, he would often sit near the same tree where the poor man once rested. He would look up at the sky and say, "The man who helped a Jinn girl taught the world that even the smallest good deed can echo for eternity." The story ends with a timeless truth.